Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein. Today's episode features two former NFL players who came to our attention through a wonderful program called Smocks Jocks, and I'm so glad they did. Our guests are Andre Collins and Aaron Maybin. Andre is the executive director of the Professional Athletes Foundation arm of the NFL Players Association and founded the Smocks Jocks program 17 years ago. Andre played 10 years in the NFL and won a Super Bowl ring with Washington in Super Bowl 26. An artist as well as a football player, Andre started Smocks Jocks as a way for current and former NFL players to exhibit their art during an annual event and auction during Super Bowl weekend, all while helping to raise funds for the PA's financial assistance and educational programs, which help former athletes transition to life after sports. Aaron talks about being interested in art at a young age and continued expressing himself through his artwork in college and into the NFL. Following his NFL career, Aaron returned to his native city of Baltimore and works in the public school system there, teaching art, and is very active in social activism. He talks in detail about his commitment to the kids in his city and how important the arts are as a key to their development and expression. We at Legends of Sport are excited and grateful to be part of raising awareness for this terrific program. Big thanks to Andre and Aaron for taking the time to chat with me today, and to Leslie Isler at the NFLPA's Professional Athletes Foundation for getting us all together. I hope you will all enjoy this episode, and as always, I'll see you on the backside. And it's my pleasure to welcome former NFL players Andre Collins and Aaron Maybin to the Legends of Sport podcast. So guys, is it cool to think of you both as former NFL players or former Nittany Lions? Let's get that off, like right off the bat here.
Well, I think it would be unfair to do one without acknowledging the other. So,
right.
I'm completely cool with that.
I love it.
I think you captured it.
Yeah. So guys, first and foremost, we're here to talk about the 17th annual Smocks Jocks Event, right? I found out about this event that's held every Super Bowl weekend. You guys have been doing this for 16, now it's the 17th year, from my good friend, Ron Johnson of the Abstract Athlete Program, right? You guys all know him. And, it's exactly the type of event that we here at Legends of Sport are all about, right? It's helping and highlighting ways that former athletes can transition post-career and the resources that are available to them that not too many people know about, right? So I immediately reached out to Leslie at the PAF to see how we could help raise awareness for this year's event and also contribute art to the exhibition, by the way. Have a couple of pieces in the exhibit. I know we're all super bummed that COVID kind of, forced the cancellation of the live event this year in LA, but the exhibition is alive and well online, right? And I'm happy to say that, like I said, two of our pieces that I collaborated with artist Jenna Milanese are going to be in the exhibition. So enough of that intro, right? Andre, you're the executive director of the Professional Athletes Foundation, right? The PAF. So can you first off just talk about this really important arm of the NFLPA and its mission to help athletes in transition and to help those who might need some help?
Yeah, many years ago, at the PAF, we really thought it was important to start to try and uncover who players are more than just players on the field. Players have a life, players have interests, players are creative, players are super talented. Mm-hmm. And I started to discover that there were lots of players out there painting, doing sculpture, taking pictures. And we said, you know what, this is a great opportunity. There's not really a lot going on at the Super Bowl kind of in this space. Mm-hmm. And it was just a nice opportunity for us to jump in there. And that very first year, we had the art ranged from fine art to folk art to some not very good and some exceptional, but we didn't want to turn anyone down. We really wanted the traction. Lots of players were willing to participate, but certainly over the years, the art has really progressed to being fine art. And it's really I think it's one of the premier shows in the country today. It's got a special little, audience. And, the artists are special. So just excited to be a part of it all these years.
So was that your idea, Smocks and Jocks?
I want to say it was my idea. There were probably a few people that whispered it to me, but I was in position to kind of make it happen, and kind of got some people at the NFLPA on board. And that first year we did the show in Detroit at Robert Porche's restaurant at the time. I actually drove all the art out there myself in my truck, just bouncing along the highway with couple $100,000 worth of art. That probably wasn't smart, but we made it there. Nothing broke. We had a successful show, and that was the beginning.
Wow. Aaron, what was your first experience with Smocks and Jocks?
I think my first experience had to be maybe my second or third year in the league. I participated. And my participation really kind of just stemmed from a relationship with Andre, his former Penn State Nittany Lions, and as a guy who's personally always made himself available to me as a resource and an outlet as a former player. I was excited to hear about it because art had been a huge part of my life. Since childhood. I had majored in art in college. The first money I was actually able to make to, sustain myself and be able to take my girlfriend out to get a bite to eat was all, from me selling my work. And, being fortunate enough to get drafted in the first round and, to kind of have like a little bit of financial cushion. In the first few years of my first few years in the league, it was a unique opportunity for me to spread my wings as an artist as well, because I wasn't necessarily creating work because of a need to have to sell it for my livelihood. So really, that first few years was just my exploration into the craft outside of academia. I had studied art in school and all of those things, but I wanted to really like get to know the type of work that I wanted to speak for me and kind of sustain my career after I got done playing. And Smocks and Jocks served as a great barometer for me to be able to do that in a professional space, and it really was a great outlet that that Andre was able to be instrumental in creating, because most people never make that connection between, athletics and the arts, because people see them as polar opposites of one another. But so many of us as athletes have used art as our outlet and our resource, for much of our lives. And I think that this event does a great job of highlighting that and encouraging other people to, leave their own comfort zones and see what kind of work they can create.
I think that's so interesting the way you just put that, because, I don't think of rough and tough NFL players as artists, as having that like sort of art side to them, and quite frankly, as a sports photographer, I shot every sport out there. I would probably not put football up there as the most sort of, artistic sport to shoot. Right. I mean, they're, the Olympic sports and, basketball, the way they can fly the rim and things like that. Even hockey, what these guys can do on skates. The fact that you guys are raising awareness for art and, coming out of football, I think is amazing. I mean, I've heard you say, Andre, a few times, you say that NFL players are more than just athletes, right? That there's another side to them, and you're bringing that out. That's wonderful. I watched a bunch of videos, and I saw that great live art, I guess exhibition that you did, right? Was that last year, Aaron? When did you do that live art piece?
Man, I do so many shows. I can't.
I think he's referencing the George Knock piece.
Yeah, the George Knock.
For the Smocks and Jocks. Yeah.
That one was amazing. And I didn't even know anything about George Knock, and his work was just off the chart. Incredible.
Well, that's why stuff like that, events like this are important. You know, I think, especially when you talk about Black art and Black artists, you know, our narrative in this country has largely been controlled outside of our community. You know, we aren't usually in the primary position, you know, in media or academia, you know what I mean, to control our narrative. But the one place that we have always had that autonomy and that freedom is through the arts. You know, so no matter what point in this country's history that you look back on, you know, whether you look at the Black arts movement of, you know, the 60s and 70s, or the that coincided with the Black Power movement that was taking place. If you look at, you know, the civil rights movement and how, you know, artists like Aretha Franklin and Billie Holiday, you know, kind of eloquently, you know, told the story of what people of color were going through. You know, the art has always been how we narrated our existence. But the problem is, the gatekeepers of the art world have never really looked like us. So, you know, the story of an artist like a George Knock, you know, usually gets lost. Or, you know, my mentor, Larry Poncho Brown, you know, people that have created artwork that is really narrated generations worth of existence, you know, they're not household names, you know. So opportunities like this that give people, you know, and athletes with platforms such as Andre and myself, the opportunity to utilize those platforms, not just to give a platform to our own work and voice to our own experience, but to highlight the work of people that have been instrumental in influencing us. You know, the people like George Knock, you know, Charles Bibbs, Larry Poncho Brown,
Ernie Barnes,
you know, Ernie Barnes, who was one of my first inspirations, you know, growing up watching Good Times, being able to see not only JJ creating, you know, artwork as a part of the storyline, but being able to see, you know, a painted picture of Jesus that looks like me. You know what I mean? Different characters that represent, you know, your history and your lived experiences. That only happens through the art, you know, and if we don't preserve it and if we don't protect it and make sure that we invest in it and use our platforms to bring awareness to it, what does that look like, you know, 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now?
Yeah, I hear you. Andre, were you surprised that so many former and current NFL players actually were artists that had that side to them when you started to do this?
I wasn't surprised that there were so many. I was just really pleased that they were going to participate. I had learned many years ago when I was an active player, you know, I was friends with a trumpet player in town in Washington, and I had given him tickets to one of the games. And he said he went to the game and he didn't realize before, but watching the game, he thought the game was so poetic and so creative, the way that the players moved around on the field, that he went home and he practiced all night after that. He said he was so inspired by the creativity on the field that he just couldn't put his horn down. And right then and there, I kind of realized, you know, that there's a little bit of an artist in all of us athletes, because we do have to react. We do have to create, you know, on the field, which is kind of like a canvas, you know, every week. So it lives there. I'm just so glad that the players have enjoyed it and have participated. And now my phone's ringing off the hook, you know, early in the year to try and figure out how soon they can send their art. So it's been amazing. And I'm thrilled to have had Aaron in the show all these years. He's really helped us take the show to another level. But now we've just really enjoyed being able to do it. And, you know, after 16 years, it really is one of the signature events for the NFLPA at the Super Bowl. So just so sad that we're not able to do it this year. But we'll be online February 10th through the 14th with the live auction, still giving the players the opportunity to kind of showcase their skills.
Yeah, well, we'll be promoting that. You know that. And we would have been there if you were here. But look, there's always next year in Phoenix, right? Hey, Aaron, can you talk a little bit about Project Mayhem? You know, I was looking into your story. I didn't know your story until we started researching it, but it's pretty amazing what you did. You left football, right? And you went back to the city of Baltimore, working in the inner city. I mean, I love the slogan, pick up a shovel and help, you know? I love that. I really do. I work with a inner city youth center here in LA, and I help build their photography program from the bottom up. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it'd be better if you ask me a direct question about a specific element of it, because you understand I wear a whole lot of hats. So specifically in terms of the transition.
Yes. Not as much in the transition is what you're trying to bring to these kids, especially with art, right?
Okay.
Because I've found here in LA that these kids are not exposed to art, right? I mean, they're just trying to get by, and we introduced them to photography. In fact, I have a really crazy story, wonderful story, where we started with these middle school kids, and we gave them these point and shoot cameras, and we said, just take pictures of stuff that happens to you every single day, and they did this sort of photo diary, and then we made prints and we put them up on the wall. And this one little girl, Jessica, I think she was 11 years old. I said, well, which one of these pictures stands out to you the most? And she showed a picture of her stoop. And I said, why is that? And she said, I didn't realize until I took a picture of it that it was green. And she walked by it every single day, up and down. How many times, right?
Right.
So it's raising awareness for their, creativity, and be able to,
For me, it's a lot more serious than just simply raising awareness. The way I look at it, art is largely responsible for saving my life. As a kid, I was an artist before I could form words and speak. I was running around the house stealing Reynolds wrap, aluminum foil, anything that was malleable that I could create something out of, anything that I could paint with or draw with. That was just me. My parents recognized that at an early age and invested in that. I was the kid in the hood that was, singing in church choirs and, acting in school plays and going to dance lessons and things like that. Like nobody, in my hood did stuff like that, and as a kid, people would look at me, kind of sideways, like, yo, what's up with you? And like, you're not into any of the things that we're into. You're spending all your time over here doing this. But as I got older, I realized what I was getting from it. After my mom passed away, I, started kind of a lifelong, battle and push and tug with depression and anxiety. Art was the first space that I ever had that allowed me to escape that allowed me to express what I was feeling in a way that I didn't know how to say or speak yet. You know what I mean? Especially in a city like Baltimore, a lot of our kids, we don't grow up learning how to articulate our emotions or how to heal or how to process trauma. We just learn how to bottle it up and keep moving. And at some point that becomes destructive. At some point that becomes a detriment to your development as a whole human being. And I was really kind of a grown man before I realized how deficient I was in so many areas. And this is with the exposure to the arts. This is with, a very well-rounded vocabulary and being very well read and all that kind of stuff. So what were all of my homies and friends that I went to school with at a young age dealing with? How much harder was it for them not being exposed to all of these things? And then on top of that, it's like, art is part of the foundational experience of how we learn, so no school curriculum that is complete can be lacking in the arts. You know what I mean? You can't have a fully comprehensive school curriculum that doesn't have the arts in it.
And yet that's the first thing that gets slashed, right?
Right. And a year before I left school and declared for the draft, Baltimore City had one of the most severe budget cuts that they have ever had in the educational sector. And the first thing that all of our schools did was cut the funding to their arts programs. So my rookie year, the first thing that I did was start my foundation, and I went into the schools and started doing workshops and programming to kind of supplement what those schools weren't getting.
Mm-hmm.
But as a 20-year-old kid that just came out of college, you know, as much money as I may have had access to, it was a drop in the bucket, based on what was not there and what the kids needed.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole first couple years, I kind of went about that process of realizing, oh, you're not in a position to fix this by yourself. You know what I mean? So I got more focused on the advocacy angle. But that was also around a point in my career that I realized that I was at, you know, a precipice where it was like, if you want to be the type of football player that you already told yourself you want to be, you got to really let all of this stuff that you're doing outside of the game go and focus in on the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And when it all was said and done, you know, the conversation I had with myself was, you know, if I were to drop dead today, and the best thing that somebody could say about me is he was a damn good football player, then I've wasted, you know, my life essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I couldn't use, you know, the things that I've done and the resources that I've been able to attain to actually go back into my community and uplift it and help to make it a better place instead of being one of these people spending all their time complaining, then what am I doing? You know, so that was really the time that I decided to make that transition and to really realign my life to focus on, you know, impacting my city in a positive way.
When did photography come into the picture for you, so to speak?
Photography has always been something I've done. Really, to be perfectly honest, my photography was really just something that I started as references for my paintings. You know, you know, I think people really started paying more attention to my photography around 2015 because during the uprising here in Baltimore, you know, I was in a place where I couldn't be comfortable just being in my studio while all of this was going on. So that entire time I was in the streets, but, you know, I had my camera with me and I was documenting everything that was happening. And I was, you know, making sure that I was putting out the real narrative, you know, and because of, I think, how far some of those photos went, a lot more people started paying attention. But, you know, the same with my illustration or my painting or my writing, like, you know, people get exposed to them based on what the art is being created around. You know what I mean? I got 3 books getting ready to drop this month. So, you know, those are all in different areas around different topics. So those will all do whatever they will, you know, but I really more so just focus on creating the work, creating the content, you know, how people find it, you know, how it goes, where it goes, how it impacts folks. You know, as an artist, you don't really control that, you know, but you control the spirit and the intent from which you create the work and release it out into the world.
I hear you. Well, listen, man, I'm just putting this out there, but I would love to come talk to the kids about my experience with Kobe, you know, the whole Mamba mentality thing, how photography.
We definitely have your book. We got the
I love it.
We got the book in the rec. The rec me and Tori just opened. We started a community library there.
Love it. That's great.
We've got a whole bunch of books about, you know, all of our ancestors and all of our great figures, past and present. So one of the first books that I made sure that we put in the library was the Mamba mentality book.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. But the offer's there. I would love to do that.
Absolutely. Anytime you're gonna be on the East Coast in the Baltimore area, we'd love to have you.
Well, Baltimore's not far from Philly, right? So I
absolutely not.
Come see my kid. I'll come down and see you.
My daughter lives in Philly, so I'm back and forth between there all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Have either of you guys had the pleasure of meeting Kobe? Any interaction whatsoever?
One time.
Yeah,
I did not.
One time.
Yeah,
I met him at a camp. I actually wasn't even supposed to be at this camp because at the time I was getting ready to accept my scholarship to go to Penn State. But while I was at this camp, he just happened to visit. You know, I was there, I was at this school, and I was, I was going to visit the school, but they had a camp going on. So, they took me down there, and, so we're in the gym, and Kobe comes in, and I'm like, oh my God, it's him. You know what I mean? Like,
what year was that? What year was that?
It had to be 2004.
Yeah. Oh, so he was already 3 rings in at that point.
Yeah. He was already Kobe. He was already, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't Mamba. He wasn't Mamba yet, but he was already Kobe. I think he had just cut his hair, I believe.
Yeah.
So he no longer had the fro and all of that stuff, but there was a definite aura around him. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah, I totally get it. Well, the lessons of the Mamba mentality, the pillars of it, it's kind of my job now, to preserve his legacy through the book. So would love to.
You did a fantastic job with it, and as somebody who respected Kobe so much because of his artistry as well, he was one of those athletes that really broke the mold. When you talk about the fact that, one of the things that I think that the world was really robbed of is we didn't really get a chance to see Kobe get into his artistic bag.
Yeah.
Like he made films, and he had already won some awards, but he was about to kill everything from the standpoint of his perspective. Even when you watch the interviews and he's talking about his way and approach to fine art. Yeah. Not even the game of basketball, but to fine art itself, the appreciation and respect that he had for it. Yeah. And the attention to detail that he paid into every project. That's something that I talk to my kids a lot about. And we definitely, refer back to elements of the book, where that's touched on. That's why, as soon as I saw that we were going to do that, I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. Cause I love the book.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, guys, I can't thank you both enough, really. Andre, you wanted anything more to say about Smocks and Jocks or the PAF?
No, just hopefully folks will log in and check out the art. The players have been amazing over the years, and I'm just thrilled to be able to be a player, to be an artist, and to be in this position to kind of carry this torch for the players. So there's so many guys out there, and guys will see this show and listen to this, and hopefully that will encourage some to reach out next year to participate. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And looking forward to meeting both of you in person, maybe a year from now. But so great that we connected. And thanks again to Leslie for helping to set this up. And I hope the exhibition, the auction goes well. And God willing, knock on wood, we'll be together next year in Phoenix.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks, you. Fellas. Thanks, really, Aaron. Really appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Yeah, good seeing you both.
Good seeing you both. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
Well, a big thanks to Andre Collins and Aaron Maybin for chatting with me today. All of us here at Legends of Sport applaud the work they are doing through the Smocks and Jocks annual event to continue to raise awareness, education, and funds for players transitioning to life after the game. Although the auction event was virtual this year, we look forward to the live event during next year's Super Bowl weekend in Arizona. Big thanks to Leslie Isler of the NFLPA's Professional Athletes Foundation for helping to set this interview up. And as always, to my producer and head researcher, Veronica Ahn. Remember, you can follow us on the iHeart app and online, as well as Apple and Spotify and your favorite podcast platform. Keep following us on Instagram at Legends of Sport, our Twitter at Legends_of Sport, our website, legendsofsport.net, and our YouTube and TikTok channels, Legends of Sport. My photography can be found on Instagram and Twitter at ADB Photo Inc. We'll be back next week with another great episode. Until then, stay safe and stay well.